A zombie apocalypse beguiles human imagination with raw, blatant images through popular culture, books, movies, and video games. But while the concept of the dead rising out of their graves is absolutely fictional, the fear of some kind of infectious outbreak that would take normal human beings and transform them into violent, mindless creatures does have a vaguely eerie resonance. In fact, there are some real-world scenarios and scientific phenomena that could mimic a zombie outbreak. These scenarios have their root in the realms of biology, neuroscience, and epidemiology, flying fields that are generally related to the human body, behavior, and the ways in which diseases get passed around. Here are 5 ways a real-life zombie outbreak could happen. Neurotoxins poisoning the brain. Neurotoxins are powerful chemicals that interrupt the nervous system and its control over the body by the brain. They can cause hallucinations, paralysis, and other forms of affected mental states that might be indicative of zombie-like nature. One of the most oft-cited historical examples has been through the use of tetrodotoxin from pufferfish in Haitian voodoo rituals. It produces a death-like effect in its subjects. Subjects in such conditions were later revived to near catatonic states, unable to fully control their faculties. In that case, a potent neurotoxin would burst through infected food and water supplies and cause mass poisoning. Individuals affected by this would lose higher cognitive functioning and be basically driven by instinctive needs for hunger and aggression. In such a scenario, the population would turn zombified and start behaving in erratic and violent manners. Theoretically, this is highly speculative. The threatening power of neurotoxins could almost paralyze and change human behavior into some sort of acting zombie outbreak. Parasitic infections, mind-altering parasites. Nature is replete with instances of parasites that can affect their host behavior. It is a phenomenon generally referred to as zombie behavior. A well-known example concerns a fungus of the genus Ophiocordyceps, which infects ants. The fungus infects the ant's brain and compels the ant to climb atop a high point to attach itself to a leaf or branch before dying. The fungus then sprouts out of the ant's body and releases spores to infect other ants. Such a mind-controlling parasite, if it existed in humans, could result in a zombie-like outbreak. Toxoplasma gondii is a parasite well known to commonly infect cats and rodents, where it does indeed alter the behavior of infected rodents to lose their fear of predators. This very same parasite, if it evolved or mutated to be infectious for humans, may conceivably change our behaviors in profound ways, potentially driving us to aggression, irrational behavior, and overwhelming loss of control. It is still unknown if there is such a parasite that would essentially turn human beings into mindless attackers. Though the idea is not beyond scientific feasibility, the contamination of such a parasite would be possible through water or food or insect bites, thus setting on a huge potential cause of an outbreak of infected people behaving in zombie-like ways. Prions, infectious proteins. Prions are infectious proteins that induce a disastrous neurodegenerative disease, spongiform encephalopathy. Perhaps the best known is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD, one of several human forms of mad cow disease, so named because it affects cows and other cattle, causing them to behave strangely, bovine spongiform encephalopathy. Prions propagate by forcing normal proteins of the brain to take on abnormal shapes, thus causing neural destruction, loss of cognitive and motor control, and death. What makes prions so terrifying is that they resist traditional forms of sterilization. Capable of staying infectious in brain tissue for many years after the host has died, prion diseases are lethal with no known cure. While they do not spread as rapidly as viruses, an outbreak of such a prion disease can actually simulate a zombie-like apocalyptic scenario. An outbreak, if the prions spread via infected meat, would cause widespread damage in brains of those coming into contact and be more violent. As their brains disintegrate, people who get infected may eventually lose all memory, coordination, and reasoning, yet turn irrationally aggressive, unpredictable, zombie-like in nature. Viral infection, rabies on steroids. Rabies is arguably one of the most realistic viruses that could actually form a zombie apocalypse. The virus attacks the central nervous system and develops symptoms that include paranoia, hallucinations, aggression, and hydrophobia, perhaps better known as fear of water. In its final stages, rabies causes extreme agitation and violence, breakdown of mental faculties, and death. A mutant strain of the rabies virus able to spread with comparative ease maybe through air particles, or through contact with an infected person, could create a doomsday-type scenario where the victims would become rabid, zombie-like people. With today's genetic engineering and biotechnology, the horrible opportunity even exists to create a more powerful, faster-acting rabies virus. The realistic scenario would be for such a virus to cause sudden infection of the population, thereby overwhelming the health systems. Infected would lose control and turn violently aggressive against other individuals. Like in a traditional zombie outbreak, infections could easily take place through possible bites, scratches, or any form of direct contact with bodily fluids. Though this scenario is just a mere speculation, it is not impossible given the mutability of viruses, the facility of the tool available in modern virology. Neurogenesis and reanimation, real-life Frankenstein. Neurogenesis, or the formation of new neurons, is especially of high interest in neuroscience. There have been several experiments carried out about the reanimation of dead tissue. Scientists have already succeeded in restoring brain activity in pigs' brains even after death, to such an extent that some cellular functions were revived. Although these experiments are limited and as yet have not led to reanimation of complex organisms, they show that the line between life and death is a lot more diffused than conventionally thought. With more advanced neurogenesis research someday, it might be possible to attempt a massive revival of dead tissue. But therein lies the danger. In the partial reanimation, higher-order cognitive processes controlling such constructs as morality, reasoning, and empathy would not be restored. Retained by the reanimated individuals would perhaps only be the most instinctive capacity for hunger and aggression, essentially zombies in the classical sense. Besides the scientific miracles of CRISPR and other means of gene editing, a spectre of alteration of the human genome in ways uninvented and hazardous may arise. If a scientist were playing with the reanimation of brain tissue or curing death by neurogenesis, it would have calamitous effects if not fully understood or controlled. Conclusion. The concept of the zombie speaks deeply to some primal fear of illness and death and loss of identity. It confronts us with the terrifying prospect of being less than human, an automaton acting on base desires without the control of will. Much of the scenarios discussed herein, whether neurotoxins, parasites, prions, viruses, or neurogenesis, find their basis in real science and reflect actual vulnerabilities in both body and mind. What's chilling about these scenarios is how they take something essentially human, our brain, our behavior, and turn it against us. It offers a view into a world where the boundaries between life and death, sanity and madness, could be breached in ways matching those from the zombie apocalypse of fiction. While a zombie outbreak might not play out like it does in the movies or books, an event involving a widespread outbreak of mind-altering disease or some sort of reanimation science gone wrong is most definitely not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Mixing in biological, chemical, and technological expertise may create risks hitherto unimagined. The zombie apocalypse, in fact, closer to home than we are perhaps comfortable with. Thank you for spending time with us through Spookscope today. Feel free to share your thoughts and theories in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, my dear spooker, stay curious.